Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome back to the long awaited, most anticipated podcast episode to date in all of podcasts, episode 3 of the S Tier podcast. As always, I'm your first co host, Jeremiah.
And I'm your second co host, Nick. Today we've got a
As
nice treat for you guys. This is a different tier list in that we actually created it ourselves. We're not just using one borrowed off of the internet.
mostly
And this
Nick,
one will be going over medieval weaponry.
and boy, let me tell you, I'm going to be having to ask Nick a lot of questions because he's much more versed in this subject than I am. I do know a little bit, and I will share those opinions, but I will mostly be deferring to Nick this time. And,
Yes.
and don't worry, I will be trying to make arguments for one weapon over another if I don't understand the practical application of them. I'm not even sure if I know all of these names, and some of them I would feel like aren't even medieval, but we will get to all of that in this episode. Now,
Indeed.
Nick, seeing as you're probably more, what would be the word I'm trying to think of here? Uh, Familiar or well versed in this area, what do you think the tier list should be determined by? What standard or characteristics of these weapons are we rating?
Well, that's hard to say because I've thrown in a mix of both, like siege weapons and then actual martial weapons. So we can't just go off of the same standard for everything. But
That,
in
I
terms
guess, is
of
fair.
in terms of, I guess everything has to be considered because you can't just think, "Oh, this will win in a 1v1," because then you can also think, "Wait, in an actual like battlefield, which one is going to be more effective?" So it's difficult to say.
And I know from playing For Honor, some medieval weapons are not better in a 1v1.
Yeah, like you should just grapple every time.
What an unrealistic
Yeah,
game
let's not
to.
talk about that one.
uh, what's that? There's a ledge. You win.
I played it maybe twice total, and it just wasn't it. It wasn't it, man.
I played it quite a bit. On my console days, I will say
Yeah.
the most fun thing in the 3v3 game mode is to not honor the 1v1s, to completely go and help out one of your teammates, which you're not supposed to do.
Hey,
Um,
that's the strategy right there. That's winning.
yeah, you're really not supposed to do that. It's poor
Yeah.
etiquette, but it was funny.
Yeah. Now
Anyways,
let's talk about the weapons here. The weapons here.
yes.
Um,
I presume we're going the same we have been, top to top down, left to right, and I'm gonna try to guess the names of each of these in case I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
pretty.
let you take a guess before I actually tell you what it is because I was the one that actually looked up all these weapons and put them together. So I do
Yes.
know the names.
Um, and correct me if I'm wrong. This first one is a type of mace.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just your standard mace. It has
Standard
four
mace.
edges to it, so you can do bludgeoning damage that actually can like, get into armor pretty well.
Hmm. So I know a mace would be more of a type of weapon purely to just have something to whack someone with, right? Or maybe to break through weaker armor. But correct me if I'm wrong, there are several different kinds of armor that would have been worn during this time period that this was as a weapon.
Yeah, typically you'd have like three different kinds of armor. You'd have your flashy and shiny plate armor, which is,
Mm-hmm.
well, as it sounds, plates of metal that are put together with leather straps around a knight and a foot soldier.
Mm-hmm.
You've also got chainmail, which is probably the most used metal armor. It's just links of chain put together in a coat, and you just wear
Mm-hmm.
it underneath anything. And then you've got like leather or hide armor made from animal skin. So Those are your 3 kinds of armor. So a mace would probably be most effective against
Plate
plate
mail
armor.
or
Yeah, plate armor
okay.
because it's bludgeoning, and you
Yeah.
can whack the armor, and it'll go like it'll dent it. It'll bend it into the person, and
Hmm.
you can't just like bend that out. It's gonna stick you the entire time you're fighting if you get hit by it.
Oh yeah, it's not like you would want to just take off a piece of armor anyway, but plate mail is pretty hard to get in and out of as far as I'm aware. It's
Yeah, you
not
need like armorers in order to get it off.
yeah. And a mace, this standard mace that we're looking at here, how much do you think it would weigh on average? At least on the end of it. Like how much poundage are we
It's
talking
probably
about?
not too heavy. Maybe I want to say like 7 kilograms. So like 14, 15 pounds.
What are
So
you
it's got a good
what?
weight to it.
14 kilograms is not 8
I
pounds.
said I said 7 kilograms, and then I switched to 14 to 15 pounds.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, so it's got a
oh.
good weight to it,
Okay,
but
that
it's
makes
not
sense.
too heavy to actually swing.
You can always get Jamie to look that up for you
Yeah.
if you need.
Jamie, how heavy is a mace from the medieval times? Yeah, we don't have Jamie,
Well, you could look it
but
up.
I could look it up, but I'm not gonna.
Oh, okay.
So a mace is definitely not your main hand armament. That's gonna be like backup. So if you lose
Wait, the
your
mace is a
main hand weapon,
backup.
yeah, the mace would be a backup. You'd like keep it on your waist, and
You're
then you'd switch to it. Yeah,
okay.
you'd
So you
switch
don't
to it.
have just mace people.
No, you're not going. You're not going to the front lines with a mace. You
Okay,
could bring
okay.
it to a tournament though. They have tournaments in medieval times to see who's the best warrior, and maces would definitely be useful there.
Do you think, in comparison to some of these other weapons here, now I'm not gonna try and get too far ahead, but I obviously, swords, spears, that kind of thing. Would a mace be able to withstand a cut or slice if someone were trying to slice it down the middle and you're holding both ends of it?
Yeah, it's the handle is normally made of solid wood, just so you don't break it with the own force of swinging it. So it's sturdy. It's not gonna just break in half.
Would a common maneuver, let's say, of someone wielding mace, if someone is about to like overhand slice with a sword, whether that be a short sword, great sword, if would it be like, oh, I lost my weapon. Let me swap to my secondary, pull out the mace, and then grip both ends of it and like thrust upward like you're trying to block it.
I don't see why not. I also don't see where you're going with this.
But like that would be another use for a mace, right?
Yeah, you
Maybe
could
I'm
also
going
pick up
too
a piece of
niche.
wood you find nearby.
Maybe I am going a little bit niche with this.
Okay, but
But they're
how would we rank this?
well,
Where would we put a mace?
they're generally short range, right?
Yeah,
They're only what, like 3, 4 feet long?
maybe 2 feet. They're not that long.
2 feet?
Yeah,
I'm trying to measure that out with my hands right now. Are you sure 2 feet? I'm thinking more like 3 feet.
maybe 2.5 feet.
I guess that sounds that yeah, 2.5, 3, maybe 3.5 feet. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So
That is pretty
you can give
short
people a good whacking with a mace.
as a secondary as well.
Yeah,
Personally, I'm feeling like it's a C tier.
that's fair. Like it's all right, but it's not phenomenal. There's way better things than a mace. So I'll put it in C tier. Like it's reliable. You can fall back on it,
And
but
compared to
it's not what you
other
want.
short range weapons, would it be a viable option compared to other short range options? Because I know there's plenty of long range options.
Yeah, I'd say it can match. It can match up pretty well.
Okay.
Speaking of long range weapons, I just completely forgot one weapon that I could have put on the list. I could have put a crossbow on here, but I didn't.
Oh.
My
Um.
bad. Crossbow's
Well,
S tier though.
crossbow is S tier.
Yeah, it's the
Doesn't
best.
doesn't that take
It
forever
requires
to
no
reload?
training. You just point and shoot, and it goes like straight through plate armor. It's so good. Like
But
keep in mind, crossbow S tier.
how do you reload? Doesn't it take way harder to reload?
Depends on the crossbow. Some of them have like um winches that you can turn and it'll pull back the string for you. Other ones you have to
Ah.
actually pull the string back with the bolt, but they are phenomenal. Gotta love them.
Plus, you can
But
always light the arrow on fire, have a
I mean,
flaming
yeah,
arrow.
but but I mean, that's only useful for igniting certain things, which we can get to in a bit. So for
Okay.
now, we'll move on to the next weapon.
Which is a ballista?
Yeah, it's ballista right
Yeah,
there.
ballista. Okay. So ballista is just a big crossbow, right?
Yeah, crossbow, but big.
Now, what is the purpose of a ballista in a medieval battlefield setting?
A ballista would be mounted on a wall, a
Hmm.
rampart, and its primary use would probably be to hit other siege equipment.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, I did not know what a ballista would be used for because I'm like, you would not shoot a person with that necessarily. Maybe a horse, but even
I mean, if you
then,
did shoot a person with it, I don't think they'd survive.
well, obviously not. But other siege equipment that actually makes sense. So if you see a catapult or trebuchet far off, what
Yeah,
would be
you'd
like
want to
the
try to hit it with the ballista because then hopefully the arrow can either damage the mechanisms or just get stuck in it somewhere and ruin the firing sequence.
yeah.
Additionally, it would be useful against cavalry because a single arrow might not take out a horse, but a single massive bolt will definitely take out a horse.
And if you shoot it into like a pack of
You
cavalry,
can probably cause quite the stir.
it might be. Yeah, I'm thinking, horses, tumbling into each other. Um, Honestly, what is the realistic range of this ballista? How
It
far away
it'd be
from the
pretty long.
wall?
It'd be pretty long. Maybe 100 or so meters. So
Hmm.
it's good range for that time. But likely you're not gonna hit anything that range because the
Yeah,
further away your target, the less accurate you're gonna be.
I was about to say the accuracy definitely is probably not great with this, just because of the pure
No,
size of the projectile you're firing.
no, your accuracy on this is gonna suffer.
That being said, as a defensive armament used for specifically countering siege weapons, and I would assume quite effectively at that.
Yeah.
How easy are they to be taken out? Essentially, you would need a siege weapon to hit it first, right?
I mean, yeah. Or you can maybe catch it on fire with an arrow, but the crew is gonna be right there and they can put it out real quick.
And,
So,
and
destroying one, by the time you're destroying one, you've either destroyed the entire wall with a catapult or trebuchet,
or
or you've
you've
already
already got
taken
through
the
the
wall.
castle. Yeah,
You're already on the wall and you've killed the crew and commandeered the weapon.
yeah.
So by the time it's taken out, you've basically won the siege, maybe.
How long does it take, do you think, to reload? Probably quicker than a catapult or trebuchet, right?
Definitely, but it would still take a while. Maybe a minute for every shot, so that
Which is
you
pretty
can.
good.
Well, with a trained crew, I bet you could definitely reduce that time to maybe 30 seconds. Because
That's
all in all, what
really
you're
good.
doing is you're firing the bolt, and then you're using the winch to pull back the massive string, and then just fix another bolt in there. So it probably wouldn't take too long to reload.
I think that is probably quicker than a trebuchet or catapult,
Most
honestly.
definitely.
That means that you can probably get off way more shots. And how many of these, like, you said they're in the ramparts, right?
Yeah.
So, there's probably what, four of them facing the battlefield, defending against these larger siege weapons.
Depends on your castle.
That is true, and also that also brings up a good point. The you know layout of the battlefield, the terrain, where the castle is situated, definitely would have an impact on the effectiveness of the ballista, right?
Yeah, most castles would be situated on a hill or some sort of incline, so that opposing armies will have a difficult time actually walking up to the walls with ladders or siege towers.
Yes. However, does a castle being situated on a hill make it easier for trebuchets or catapults to hit it?
Makes it harder.
Really? That makes it harder, even though they're higher
Yeah.
up?
But yeah, you're gonna want your trebuchets and catapults to be far back so that the ballistas can't hit them. And so, with the castle being up high, that means that you're gonna have to have those trebuchets and catapults closer in order to actually hit something that's above them.
Oh, okay, I see. That
Yeah.
makes sense. So,
So with the
okay,
ballistas on the high ground, they have more range and they can hit those catapults and trebuchets much easier.
and honestly, I'm thinking, I don't know about you, but defensively and stuff, I'm feeling maybe high B tier.
I was thinking B tier as well, because again, its greatest weakness is how small the projectile actually is. Like it can hit one thing. That's it. Just one thing at a time. Whereas a catapult could roll through ranks of an army.
Yeah,
But the ballista? Nah. So B for ballista.
B for ballista.
They are cool though. I like ballistas. They're cool.
Yes, especially when it is used to target something much smaller than you would need a ballista for it.
Oh yeah. Like if you're hunting birds, that'd be so much fun.
Well, I don't. That might be pretty hard to line up a shot on a bird.
Yeah, but if you hit it, there's not much bird left.
I don't know why, but
Okay.
that just reminded me of that clip from baseball where the guy
Oh
throws a
yeah, where you
baseball.
threw the he pitched the ball and it hit a bird. That's a classic clip right
One in
there.
a million odds right there. Probably not exactly one in a million, but still kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's basically what a ballista would do to a person.
I bet. I mean, well, obviously there's much higher caliber weapons nowadays that can do far more damage, but
Yeah, especially with Oppenheimer releasing yesterday. Today is Saturday, July 22nd, 2023. For your information. Next weapon.
I yes, sir. That would be called a Oh, actually, okay, I think I've forgotten the actual name of this, but I've heard it before. Um, is it just it's a device that launches a volley of arrows at once, correct?
No, that would be a hwacha, and that's a Chinese invention. This is a battering ram.
Oh, I was looking at this completely wrong. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I can see where you're looking at it from, but no,
Oh yeah.
the side view of a
Okay.
battering.
Okay, the best that's a side view battering ram. Okay, that makes way more sense.
Yeah,
I feel
if
like
you say
everyone's gonna
so.
hear me say that a lot this episode. That makes a lot of sense. That makes more sense. Yeah.
And you just reminded me of more weaponry that I forgot existed.
Huacha?
So thank you. Yeah, a hwacha. Additionally, I forgot like all Oriental um, siege weapons
Oh,
and
no fireworks
martial
launchers?
weapons. So no firework launchers, no katanas or nodachis, none of that. I forgot all about those. I was only thinking Europe. My bad.
Uh, well, honestly, I'm pretty sure we all know where you would put katana. Um,
B tier. It's terrible. It's like the worst weapon ever created.
Why is a katana so bad? Enlighten
'Cause it
us.
just breaks. If you do not hit right with it, it just breaks.
Isn't that why you have
And
to
it
be
can
trained with it?
only slash. You cannot use piercing attacks with it. It can only slash. So if you have anything stronger than like leather armor, you're basically immune to katana's effects. It's so bad.
Thank you for enlightening us on how bad katanas
That's just my opinion. I hate them.
are. Back to battering rams. So
Yes.
obviously, okay, I know what a battering ram is. Honestly, I assumed that was on the list, but I guess seeing the other pictures, I would not see where else it would be, so that makes sense that this is it. Also
Yeah.
for the record, a hata, what is it called? A huata?
Hwacha. Hwacha.
Huacha. A huacha, I would put in F tier. I do not see practicality for those, especially if the opponent just has shields. Um,
Yeah. That's about right. It shoots once and then that's it.
and like you're never gonna reload that until like during the battle. There's no like arrow loader dude sitting there. I mean, what a useless job that would be,
There would
anyways.
be. There would be, but it'd be
Wait,
like a
what?
peasant boy.
There'd
Yeah.
be a arrow loader?
Yeah, there'd be people that would just start putting in more arrows.
So you're telling me
China has like an infinite number of people. They can get people to put arrows back in.
even back then? So you're telling me they would actually just come to battles with like loads of arrows, like just carts
Yeah.
full of arrows?
Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta supply an army, dude. Battering ram. It goes up to a gate and it whacks it.
Yes. Depending on the gate, it can't even get through, right?
I mean, depending on anything, yeah. If you have a gate made of solid iron, nothing can move it. You can't even use the gate, so what's the point? So
That's
most
fair.
gates would be made out of wood, so you can actually open them, and the battering ram would whack the wood until it breaks.
And
And with the roof over it, your fellas inside, your peasants, they're nice and comf, not getting hit by arrows. Like they're just chilling and
peasants,
whacking the
the
gate.
peasants are. Would the peasants even be strong enough to make this a very effective weapon? You know,
Every medieval society was agricultural in nature, so that means farmers. And have you ever met a farmer? They are strong.
you're right. You're right.
They
Uh,
can they can take care of a battering ram. They can whack it.
honestly, with the roof, arrows aren't piercing. So wait. Now I have another question. Would okay? I guess there isn't really an angle for a ballista to shoot a battering ram, but if it did, like, and it just shot, could it like knock over the battering ram or do anything to? Because the
Bolt would
battering ram is
likely
really
the
just a
bolt would
log, right?
likely it is like a log, but the bolt would basically pierce through the wood and maybe hit someone using it, or it can actually, if you're lucky, it can snap the ropes that are holding up the battering ram. Because the battering ram is like Newton's cradle. It just kind of hangs there, and then you go back and forth with it and keep whacking the gate.
Oh, so that's why you don't have to like keep going and get like a running start. You can kind of just like push it back 10 feet or something.
Yeah, you can. Normally, you'd have handles in there attached to the log,
Yeah.
and the crew would just pull back on it so it'd go up, and then they just throw it forward, and the swinging motion will give it extra force to hit the gate harder.
Interesting.
So if you could hit those ropes somehow with the ballista piercing through the wood, then that would disable the weapon. But that'd be really difficult to do, so it's not
Yeah,
likely.
yeah, yeah. Um, in
But
your
one
opinion,
thing that would definitely destroy a battering ram would be fire. Just catch it
mm-hmm,
on fire.
mm-hmm.
And there's lots of ways to catch things on fire.
Oh,
So
including
unless
fire.
unless yeah, fire can catch things on fire. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So unless the crew has like a lot of water on hand, then it'll just go up in flames.
So where would you put the battering ram?
Um, B tier. It's necessary. There's no other way to get into the gate other than hitting it with
Ladders.
rock. Ladders ladders leave you vulnerable. You lose so many peasants. And they can just push ladders off
What about a siege
if they have.
tower?
Siege towers are nice. Siege towers are the best. But battering rams, they get the gates open, and the gates are very important.
It also appears siege towers. Okay, siege tower's not necessarily a weapon. Never mind.
Yeah, I thought about that. So,
So,
in terms
do,
of breaking down a gate, battering rams are the best. In terms of anything else, they do nothing.
oh yeah, it's a battering ram. So do you
Where would you
think
rank this?
do you think you could use it to take down Hannibal's elephants?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I would put it underneath the ballista because technically ballista can take out battering ram, but battering ram cannot take out ballista,
There.
which is a very niche determining factor, but it is one.
It is what you have decided, and we'll go with it.
Okay. I think this next one is pretty good. That
Want
is
to tell us what it is?
called a great axe, correct?
No, that's just a battle axe.
Uh, well, okay, normal battle axe. That's not too long, right? That's what, 4 feet,
Maybe 3.5.
3.5. Man, I'm overestimating these lengths because I guess 4 feet would be about that tall. I guess one, two, three. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
feet
I
would be
guess
a bit
you're.
much.
No, I think I'm overestimating how like much reach these things have. Um,
Well, you gotta keep in mind the costs of making these. Medieval
that's
societies aren't rich,
that's
so
true.
maybe each town would have like one knight, and he'd have a sword, he'd have a nice spear. He probably wouldn't even have a set of plate armor. It'd just be chainmail with gauntlets and greaves. So, creating big weapons just isn't their forte. And creating lots of them, definitely not.
Would this be another secondary weapon like a mace?
No, this would be a primary. It'd be used by Vikings, maybe Germanic barbarians. It's a raiding weapon. It's not fit for long drawn out fights. This is for just like getting in there, killing some people, stealing some stuff, and getting out.
Knowing that, I feel like there's still more effective things at even doing that, honestly.
Well, at some point, the axe or the battle axe kind of became more of a symbol of like, oh no, the Vikings are here. There's axes. It's so scary. So it was like fear factor, I suppose.
Hmm. Does that mean that theoretically it's not even that effective in hand-to-hand combat? Like, unless like they don't have a weapon, obviously having something is better than having nothing, right? But if someone had like, for instance, a short sword, they would have a more versatile weapon, right? Because a battle axe is two-handed, correct?
It can be one-handed. Doesn't have to be two-handed.
Would that mean that the axe is smaller or that the guy holding it is just stronger?
Well, people were probably stronger back then, especially warriors, but the axe isn't too big. So you can
Okay.
normally pair it up with a wooden shield.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Would a wooden shield even be effective at deflecting a battle axe?
Oh yeah. And if you're lucky, you can get the axe stuck in the shield, and then since you've got the other straps keeping the shield attached to your arm, you have way more leverage to just yank it away from them, and then they're disarmed. So yeah, the wooden shield would be good for going against a battle axe.
As a weapon, then, where do you think that this would fall on the list? I personally, I don't know. I don't know if this is accurate. I just personally feel like pretty much all other weapons are better just because they're more they're less cumbersome and you can make out quicker attacks, you can be in a better stance, and you don't just have to slash, you can also stab like with swords. So I feel
Yeah,
like they're
I
not
agree.
that high.
I'd probably put him C tier, but above the mace, because it would probably beat a mace in a fight.
I think it would also beat a mace in a fight just because the mace is only blunt, you know?
Hmm. Like
And
the
at
battle
the end of
axe,
the day, oh,
it's okay.
yeah,
It's
I,
not
I,
great.
I agree, I agree.
Alright.
Next is one of the probably it's the most common siege weapon, right? The catapult.
I would say yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
It's
it's a pretty simple
it's good.
machine.
It's
You
good.
just
It launches rocks,
it launches other rocks, pretty much anything you can put on there.
launches
Um,
dead cows.
dead
It's good.
cows. Yep. Fun fact: in the medieval times, since there's medieval warfare often had to do with storming or sieging a castle. If the castle was in too good of a position or the defenses were too strong so that it was not possible to break through, sometimes you just take a catapult, throw some dead cows over the wall. What happens? Disease. You know what the number one killer was back then? Disease.
Yes,
So
sir.
eventually, either everyone died of disease, or they just had to give up because all their food would be infected, or all the people that got wounded, they would all instantly just be considered dead because they can't, fight the infections, especially if they're being fought in a battle of attrition at this point. So the catapults had definitely had more than one use. Um, you said that their range was still pretty far, right?
Catapult, not so much.
Oh,
It's got
really?
maybe medium range. Ballista's
Really?
long range. Catapult, probably medium range.
Okay.
Like they can launch things, but they can't launch them too far.
Okay. That being said, what they do launch is like it can do some damage, right?
It can do some damage. Most of the time, castles' walls are impervious to anything, but these things, they can break through. Just give them enough time and enough ammo. So, catapult, solid. It's good. And they're pretty easy to make. They're not complicated, so you
Mm-hmm.
can have a lot of them. You just need some wood and some string. Not string, like strong rope. It's a good weapon. I like it. I'd put it in A tier, personally.
You're really A tier. Okay,
Yeah,
first A tier.
yeah, I like them. They're good.
Okay,
And they're mobile. They're mobile. They've got wheels. So
that is true.
unlike a trebuchet, you can actually take this with you. You don't need to build it on the spot.
Don't knock a trebuchet.
No, I'm not knocking trebuchets. I'm not gonna spoil it either. So like trebuchets, I'll leave that for when we get there.
I see you put trebuchet last for good reason.
Yeah. You
Okay,
wanna introduce us to our next weapon?
is that just a dagger?
Yeah, just a dagger.
Dagger, definitely not a primary weapon unless you're some
No,
rogue from D&D.
even then, if you're playing a rogue, stop.
uh, yes.
Rogues are the number one perpetrator of frustrated DMs.
Uh,
That and bards,
it depends who the players are. It depends who the players are.
I
Anyways,
guess, but rogues are most likely to split your party.
I guess, yeah.
But
But
daggers,
as a weapon, a dagger, I feel like it's literally just a last resort.
yes, this is not what you're bringing in, and you don't even want to switch to this. You're gonna have like 2 other weapons before you get to this one.
Yeah. And because of that, on its own, like honestly, I feel like people will use it for more like they would use it more often not fighting than they would in a fight.
Yeah, most of your soldiers will probably just pull this out to cut their apples.
Yeah, that's what I'm envisioning in my head. Because of that,
However, if you do manage to be in a fight, and this is all you have left, it's not a terrible option
well, it's
because
still better than nothing.
your game plan is to get nice and close. You're gonna want to find some way to get their weapon away from you, and then you go for a grapple. And then while you're grappling, you stick this in them somewhere
And
because it's
it's
nice
good
and
at that.
short. It's not gonna get in the way. So you stick this in them, and
Even if
maybe put it somewhere important, and they die.
even if they're wearing, armor, it's small enough that you can, get it in between the cracks of the armor,
Yeah, you can get into the in between the
the
plates.
joints, and
Yeah, the
it
joints
can.
are good.
But just in a normal either fight where you have an actual weapon or in a battlefield, you do not have the opportunity. And that's why personally
Yeah,
I just want to throw it right at D tier because as its own
there.
as a weapon, it's just you're never going to want to use this.
Yeah, it's not what you want. So D tier is sufficient. D for dagger.
D for dagger, yes sir. All right.
This
Now,
next one you're probably gonna have trouble with.
am I? Are you saying that sarcastically? Because I don't think I will.
No, no,
Okay, because it's a sword.
it is a sword.
I got it. Let's go. You said I would have trouble. No, it's a great sword, right?
No, this is an S-stock.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what that is.
It's a fencing sword.
A rapier?
No, not a rapier. This is an S-stock. In that, the difference is a rapier is basically only for pokey pokies. This one
Mm-hmm.
does the pokey pokies, but it can also do a little bit of slashy slashy.
Oh, so it's almost not useless.
I'm in the middle of a podcast. Huh? I'm in the middle of a podcast here. Was it?
It's almost not useless.
It it can be useful. You can poke it into joints of armor. If they're not plated up, then you can poke through chainmail. You can poke through chainmail with it. Pretty all right.
Anything can poke through chainmail. That's the weakness of chainmail.
Well, yeah, piercing attacks, but chainmail is good against slashing attacks and bludgeoning because you just kind of absorb the blow. To quote White
Absorb the
Street.
blow. Absorb the blow. Uh,
But
listen.
you can
I
slash with it too. So
Okay.
it's
Based
good.
off your description, I want to put it C tier.
That's probably the right spot for it.
Top of
But I
C
think it
tier
would
though.
be yeah, yeah. Just because it can do more than the axe and the mace.
Yeah. Oh, definitely more than a mace. And I definitely imagining it doing more than a battle axe because it's still a sword, which makes it maneuverable. You know.
Yeah. Yes.
This next one, I don't know if if this is considered a specific kind because I know you said that you weren't getting super specific because there's like 10 different kinds of these, right? They're called flails,
Yeah, it's a flail.
and I there's probably an infinite number of flails because it's literally just like you get a stick and then you tie something to a stick so
Yeah.
you can flail it
Alternatively,
around.
it's called a ball and chain, but we'll just call it a flail because it sounds cooler. Flails. Flails are
Um,
nice.
D tier.
What? Nah.
They're
Nah, this is
too
not D tier.
they're too easy to be disarmed.
What? No, these are disarming weapons. You get that
No,
chain wrapped around and you just yank, and whatever thing they're holding, they're not holding anymore.
no, it's the opposite. If they get their thing in the chain, they just snap it out of your hands.
No, you snap what they're holding out of their hands. You're the one holding the chain, so you're expecting it to get wrapped around. They're the one fighting against it, so as soon as it gets wrapped around, they're like, "Oh, dang!" And then by the time they realize that they can pull, because it was your strategy, you're the one holding the flail. You've already been pulling, so you take their weapon from them.
I'm just gonna trust you that that's how that works.
Yeah,
Does that mean that
and you
there
can
are?
get people good whacking with it.
Oh, well, sure, you can give people a good whacking with it. I just feel like even a normal mace is better because you have more momentum.
It's not me.
Sorry?
This thing has way more momentum. You can spin that thing like crazy.
So you're saying there's more force coming from that little ball at the end than a normal mace?
Yes, because not only can you swing with it, but you can also build up speed by like spinning around the ball and then carry that into a big swing. So you've got like extra momentum from what is it? Centripetal force.
Hmm. I guess.
Now it's not the best weapon, so it would go in C tier, but I would put it above the mace and behind the battle axe because it's not like the greatest weapon.
I
It's
just
pretty good when you're mounted though.
I've just personally never been a fan of it. So,
Fair.
and by
Oh, you
not
ever
being a
watch
fan of
Lord of
it,
the Rings?
yes, I have.
Yeah, you know in Return of the King, the Witch Queen, the Witch King, sorry, the Witch King, he uses a mace. Of course, the mace is like absolutely massive, but it is a mace.
I was
Or
about
not
to.
a mace, sorry, flail. Flail. Oh my
I was
goodness, he uses
about
a
to
flail.
say. I was about to
Sauron
say.
uses a mace. Sauron uses
Yes,
a mace.
yes, yes.
Sorry, my bad.
Okay. This next one looks pretty
Yeah,
World War One era.
that's World War II. That is a M2 flamethrower. No, no, that is to represent Greek fire because I couldn't find a good picture of it.
Greek fire. I don't think we need any discussion about this one. Um,
It burns and it burns good.
it's just a S tier.
It is S tier.
There's no
Like
counter. There's no counter.
medieval flamethrowers. That's awesome. S tier right there.
They might be hard to produce and use in some scenarios, but there's no counter. You don't,
Yeah, because water just makes it angrier.
and you can't put it out. And once something is on fire, you set on fire the battle ram. I mean, not battle ram.
Battering ram. It's
Battering
toasted.
ram.
It's toast. That's it.
It's toasted. If you somehow, if like catch the castle gates on fire, that's far
Castle
more.
gates are done.
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
The
Um,
only way to get rid of it would be to like smother it, and you can't smother it once it gets going. It's just too much.
Now, for those listeners or viewers, depending on how you're consuming this episode of this S tier podcast, because the S tier podcast is an S tier podcast, hence the name
The
S
S
tier
tier
podcast.
podcast.
Just as this Greek fire is S tier, how is Greek fire? What is Greek fire? And why
Don't know.
is Greek fire?
Don't know. Historians today still don't know what exactly Greek fire was. Some say it's like a grease fire, like from when your kitchen catches on fire, and the only way to get rid of it is to like cover up the flame. But
Mhm.
we don't exactly know what Greek fire is. We just know that it was awesome.
Ooh, I just thought of something that you could have put it on here as a meme. Was it Archimedes or Da Vinci that came up with the laser beam?
I think it was Da Vinci.
I think it was Archimedes, but I
The
kind
death
of want to.
ray with all
Yeah,
the mirrors.
the death ray. Yeah, the laser beam. Um,
That would have been funny if I was thinking of it. I also didn't put the Da Vinci tank because it was only a concept.
that's fair. That's fair. Uh, essentially, what we're talking about is some smart person. We
One of those
don't know
Renaissance men.
one of the Renaissance men, because amazing things happen in the Renaissance, like concepts for death rays. Um, essentially, came up with a concept of using a very specific pattern of mirrors to focus the sun's beam and shoot essentially a heat ray that could just set ships on fire as they approached a seaside castle or fort, which would be overpowered. There is no way that you could do anything about that, especially if you just set the sails on fire. They can't
Then they're
leave.
just
They're just
stranded.
stuck in the port. Um,
Of course, it never worked. Like I think there were a
yeah,
few designs made, but they didn't produce results. So like the patrons just quickly decided this was a waste of
yeah.
money.
Unfortunately, not all cool ideas in history came to fruition.
Yeah,
uh, imagine
it would
you
be quite interesting if they did, though.
imagine the Battle of Midway if they had those on their ships.
What? They
I try
wouldn't.
to think.
They wouldn't. Huh? They wouldn't do anything. The
There
ships
is.
back then were made of metal.
I I I tried to think of the first naval battle that came to mind, and that was it.
You could have. You could have said so many other naval battles. Wow. Midway, 1942. Okay.
Hey, they would have been using the actual picture for the.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess.
well, not
Yeah,
on
you
those,
couldn't
but
even use it against planes, cause like steel melts at 22,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
yeah.
Yeah, that's Midway. Goodness.
That's why I'm deferring to Nick in terms of a history
Point it at
topic.
if you like mounted it really high up, then maybe you could point it at the deck, because most decks were made of wood. But then again, there's like ridiculously good firefighting on the ships, so they would just put it out. That's that was not. Whatever. Let's just go to the next weapon.
This, I think, is called a poleaxe.
Yeah, it's a type of poleaxe.
Yeah. Got it. I instinctively want to place an A tier because it is a long stabby thing.
Yeah. And this one's a halberd, so it's a long stabby thing and a long slashy thing.
Yes. Two-handed primary weapon, correct?
Yeah. These things are awesome.
Yes. Long stabby things, always very effective. Though a halberd would definitely be heavy. Um,
It would be heavy, but that means it's got some force.
especially if you have the high ground defending a defendable position.
hmm These would normally be like 8 feet long, so you can really get some reach with them.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And there's so many ways you can maneuver it around to effectively take out your enemy. They're fantastic. So yes,
Absolutely.
A tier, top of A tier is definitely sufficient for this beast.
All right, next. Is that just called a warhammer?
I mean, yeah, it's the Warhammer, but more appropriately, it's a maul.
A maul?
Yeah,
Is that
they're
spelled
normally called mauls.
Maul?
Yes,
Okay. Um,
it's a two-headed Warhammer. You get some good
two-headed
bludgeoning
warhammer?
with these.
Okay, okay. How long would those be?
They'd be shorter than a poleaxe, so maybe 5 feet long.
As a longer ranged. It is blunt, however.
Blunt
Uh,
is good. Because with this thing is going to be heavy, and you can get a lot of momentum behind it. So you can actually maybe shatter shields and break people's arms that are holding them.
shatter a shield and break the person. That's crazy. I
Yeah,
mean,
if
I
they're
guess.
using a wooden shield, which back in the day most people would be using wooden shields, you can
Mhm.
just break right through it, and then all that force is going to be transferred to their arm. So that you can just break their arm right there, and now they're down
An
an
arm.
entire arm. So they're at a disadvantage here.
We're talking. This sounds like a B tier weapon.
Yeah, this can be devastating if you let it hit you. But the downside is it's pretty slow to actually swing.
Oh yeah, it's
If
gotta be heavy.
you've ever used a sledgehammer, then you know It can be a lot to swing that thing. Maybe 10 maybe 15 good swings before you're just gassed.
Yeah,
So I'd probably put it B tier,
bottom of B.
maybe behind the siege weapons.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking actually.
Additionally, it would devastate plate armor.
I bet. Like, I'm just imagining, a mace blow to plate armor times like 10.
Yeah, that seems sufficient because you're gonna be holding this thing with two hands, which will get rid of any shield that you could hold. But if you miss the swing, then you are in trouble.
Yes, especially susceptible to some of the other weapons that are coming up.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us what the next one is?
It's that longbow.
That's a longbow.
That's S tier.
Yeah, better
Ranged
than Greek
we-
fire.
ranged weapons are overpowered. Um,
They are broken. They need to get nerfed.
there's just no other way to put it. No matter what kind of armor you're wearing, if you are
Longbow gets through it.
if you're hit with a longbow arrow, it will pierce and it will. Maybe with chainmail you have a little bit of hope if it gets caught in it the right way, but in plate mail maybe it'll slide off in the right angle. But other than
Maybe
that,
at the right angle. But if that hits you like dead on, it will actually go through
it
the
goes
plate.
straight through, and
That's how powerful longbows are. These are as tall as you are. You
yeah,
pull that string back and you pull it back far. And when you let it go, it's like a bullet. It just tears through. Not
and
to mention the range is ridiculous. It's still lethal at like 50 meters.
you would consider this, you know, easily at catapult range, maybe.
Yeah, it would be. And you can get a volley of these. These are really easy to make. It's a string and some wood that's been treated. So you just arm your local populace. You tell them point up at the sky in that direction, and they just loose, and you've got like 100 arrows raining down on you.
And they're not as
It's
hard to use as a crossbow either.
no, they're not. It's pretty easy. You just pull back on the string, and then you let go, and it goes.
I mean, obviously.
You don't even need to be accurate. It's accuracy by volume. But if you are accurate, if you have everyone being accurate, then you've got the best killing machine you can ever hope for. These are definitely S tier right here.
Yes, sir.
Gotta love the longbow. Gotta respect the longbow too.
Now, next up, let's see if I can guess I'm thinking of the name of this. Is that called a pike?
No, this one's a lucerne. It's
Okay,
another pole axe,
I've
but
never heard
instead
of
of
a
an axe
lucerne.
head, yeah, instead of an axe head, it has a hammer head.
Oh,
Yeah, it's got like a hammer on the edge, and it's got like 4 points on the hammer, so it can get you good.
so I'm thinking top of B tier, like not as good as a halberd, or is it better than a halberd? I'm not sure.
It's probably equal with the halberd.
Really, equal with a halberd? I mean, I know
It's
long pointy
actually
things are good.
it's actually lighter and longer than the halberd,
Oh,
so
okay.
you can get them from even further away with this. So it's a pretty good weapon.
You want to keep at the top of A?
Yeah, top of the A sounds good. Lucerne is it's nice. It's good. Next one, the doozy.
Uh, what do you mean it's a doozy? Is that a ball and spike mace?
No, this one's called a Morning Star because it kind of
Oh.
looks like a star.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're a real funny guy, aren't you?
It's pretty much a flail, but spiky.
Wait, that flail? That's a flail?
Not flail, sorry, mace. I keep
Oh,
getting
okay.
confused here. Yeah, it's a mace but spiky.
Spiky mace. Um, so do you think it's better or worse than a flail?
Worse than a mace.
Wait, you think it's worse than a normal mace?
Yeah,
Why is that?
it's not as aerodynamic.
That
I don't like morning stars.
that makes sense. Without that extra speed, you can't hit as hard with it.
Yeah.
Do the extra spikes even really have that much more functionality? Or is it kind of just like they thought more spikes equals better?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you hit them, if you hit like a lightly or unarmored person, then it causes a lot of bleeding
Oh,
because they've
well,
got like a
yeah.
bunch of holes in them. So it's meh. I don't like them. They kind of suck.
Bottom of C it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, oh man, I don't know about this next one. I don't know if I've ever seen one of these before. Is that
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Is that the axe pick?
That is the axe
The
pick.
netherite axe pick?
Yeah, that's a netherite axe pick. It's
Ah.
actually a pick saw.
Oh, is that what it's actually called?
No, this is a pickaxe.
Okay.
It's just a pickaxe.
You had me fooled. You had me fooled. I
I'll
presume that
bet.
this is a
I'll
D
bet.
tier as a weapon.
Probably.
As a weapon.
Probably. You'd be surprised how often these would be used in fighting, actually.
Is that because they just had them lying around because they were mining?
No. In a lot of sieges, especially over in Eastern Europe,
Ah, Byzantium.
um, yeah, sorry, the Middle Eastern countries, when they go to siege a castle, they would actually use tunnels, and they would dig tunnels right up under the city walls, and then they'd plant explosives there, and then blow up the walls from underneath, so they just fall down. So most sieges would actually be fought underground because the city defenders would then make their own tunnels over towards where the enemy tunnels are and try to meet them halfway. And
That's
then they'd have
crazy.
like fights down there with pickaxes to try to take the tunnels over and make sure that the walls don't get blown up. So many times there'd just be pickaxe fights underground in the dark.
That's scary.
Yeah.
They
And
didn't
this
even
was
have.
especially present at the Siege of Vienna, where the siege engineer or the engineer for the defenders made use of these quite a bit before the Holy League could come in and help.
They didn't even have redstone torches in the tunnel.
No, they had nothing. Maybe
Man,
a lantern here and there, but
that's
it was
crazy.
pretty dark.
But yeah,
So
as
pickaxes were actually
purely
used quite a bit.
okay, just because they're used a lot doesn't mean that they're a good weapon. Okay,
No, I'm not saying they're good weapons. I'm just saying that they were used a lot. So probably the worst weapon here, if I'm being honest.
worse than a dagger.
Yeah, I'd rather use a dagger.
You're in a 1v1 with someone. They have a dagger, and I mean you have a dagger and they have a pickaxe. You think that you would win?
Yeah, I just have to dodge a swing from the pickaxe and get in there,
I guess that's okay.
and I can
Fair.
start shanking.
All right.
Okay, our little history lesson is over,
This whole episode's a history lesson.
I guess. But it's only based on my knowledge from like a bunch of different sources that are probably wrong,
That's that makes it even better. That makes it
I
even
guess.
better.
Man, I love spreading misinformation on the internet.
That's why everything here on the S tier podcast is 100% fact and should be taken as such above all
Yeah.
other sources. There's nothing else on the internet that'll give you as accurate information as us.
Oprah did 9/11.
Uh, hey, we don't want to get demonetized. Oh wait, I don't think
We're not even
that
monetized, are we?
there's no, no, we're not. Uh,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
not the yeah. Never mind. I
It's
don't know
not the
if that
goal,
applies.
though.
Hmm.
I don't think is that our goal? Are we trying to make money?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
if it happens, it happens. But at this
Yeah,
rate,
if you guys want to donate to our Patreon that we don't have.
we don't have a patron. Oh, stop pandering for money.
Okay, let's just go to the next weapon.
Is that a quarterstaff?
That is the quarterstaff.
Uh, let's see. D tier as well.
No,
Why is it
these are actually surprisingly useful.
really?
Yeah. Imagine a
These.
spear without the head.
It's a stick.
Yeah, it's a strong stick. You can whack things with it. You can sweep blades out from under people. You can poke people with it. It's good. Maybe top of C tier actually.
Okay. I'll
Like
trust you
it's
on that one.
good, and you can block a lot of weapons with this.
Imagine being able to block, yeah. Maybe not too many times, but
And have you seen those like martial artists that train with these? They spin those around a lot, and it looks really cool.
uh yes, 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 yes. Yes, of course. How could I forget the cool factor?
Cool factor must be taken into account.
And the daggers gotta go up to A tier. No, I'm just kidding.
What makes you think a dagger is cool? It's like a tiny sword.
Alright,
And
let's
it's
move
hard.
on because I'm not going to justify that.
Okay,
Next, that's the good old spear.
that is the spear.
And
Mm,
you know what they say,
spear.
spear is for S tier.
Spear is for S tier. I'd put it below the longbow,
I would, yeah,
but
I'd put it
it
below
is so
longbow, but yeah,
the
spear.
spear is the weapon that was used for like the past 5,800 years. So it's just the best weapon created in human history until gun.
Until gun.
Everybody used spears in their civilization, except the US because we're too new. But everybody used them back in the day. Most battles were just a line of dudes with spears and shields against another line of dudes with spears and shields. And you poke at each other until someone gets hurt and you all go home.
So effective.
Oh, yeah. And a spear, most of the time, will probably beat a sword in a 1v1.
You just outrange him.
Yeah. You just keep poking. You stay reserved. You stay cautious. Don't let them get close, and you just poke them.
And a
Good.
spear
Here's a good.
is not even completely useless at close range.
Yeah, you can still use it. You've got the whole haft you can play with. You can hit them with the butt. You can spin it around. You can do all kinds of stuff with a spear. It's a good weapon. And depending on your spear, you can even use it for a bit of slashing.
Really? How do you slash
Yeah,
with a spear?
well, the spearhead is
Oh,
more than just
okay. That
pointy. It
makes
can
sense.
also have a bit of slashing. Of course,
That
you have to be well trained with the spear in order to actually use it like that. But you can use it like that.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Honestly, yeah. It such
S
a
tier, so good,
impactful, solid
and
medieval
so
weapon.
easy to make.
So
A
easy to
piece
make.
of pointy metal on the end of a piece of wood.
Probably the only thing on here easier to use than a bow. You just push it forward.
Yeah. In fact, it's so easy to use that this is what medieval lords would give all their peasants when they sent them out to fight. Give them a spear. Train them? Nah, just like poke the other guys.
They're probably just peasants poking too.
They're peasants poking too. Gotta love the spear. Okay, three
Next,
more left.
um, that just a short sword?
Yeah, that's just a sword. B
Sword.
tier.
I think it's top of B tier.
Yeah, I'll put it top of B tier. Not as good as you might think. All that fantasy, medieval media, it all makes a sword to be the end all be all, but really, it's just an average, okay weapon.
Still better than mace. That's all I'm saying.
Still better than a mace. But yeah, sword. It gets points for being like symbol of medieval times, but in the end, it's not that amazing at
Think of all
fighting.
the cool swords exist. You have Excalibur, Darth Vader's lightsaber. You got all these cool swords, you know?
I guess.
I listed 2 swords,
How
the
do you make
only.
how do you how do you make a lightsaber spear? Is that possible? I'm
Oh
sure it's
yeah.
somewhere in Star Wars
Hey,
Legends.
Star Wars. Hey, stop spoiling future episodes. There's an infinite number of
Oh,
episodes we can make about Star Wars topics.
probably. Yeah.
Hey,
We just go like
don't dip into our gold mine.
planets. Our gold mine. Yeah. We'll keep that for later. Right now, medieval.
But just as an aside, there are lightsaber spears. There's a lot of different lightsaber weapons.
Hog.
Yes. Anyways, next. I was really confused when I saw this at first because I had no idea. But that is just oil or tar, right?
Yeah, that's tar. What do you do with it? You
You
throw it at
dump
people
it
that are
on
attacking your
people.
walls. And then you set it on fire. And now they're on fire. And they can't put it out.
Oh, I
Tar.
forgot that you could set that on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's purely defensive. So
Well,
this is
yeah.
what you'd use against that battlegram from earlier.
I mean, even if they have a roof on it, it still does something.
Yeah. For
Where would
its
you?
defensive nature, maybe somewhere in B tier. Because you can also fill your moat with this stuff. Like not fill your moat, but you can pour some of this in your moat and it'll like float on the top. And then you just set on fire and now they can't do anything to get close. Tar is pretty nice. Maybe better than a battering ram.
Better than better? Okay. Yeah, I would still think that the ballista is more versatile.
I agree.
Oh boy, oh boy. Have we
Now we get
saved
the star of the show,
the best for last?
the
The
trebuchet,
one, the only trebuchet.
the most holiest of weapons.
For those who may not know what a trebuchet is at home, why don't you enlighten them?
The trebuchet is a wonder of engineering. It is a device for launching projectiles, such as boulders, cows, human heads. It is, in effect, a lever with a counterweight attached at one end and a sling at the other end. You place your desired projectile in the sling, you hoist up the counterweight, thus bringing the swing arm down, and then you remove the stopper, and the counterweight falls down and launches whatever projectile you want hundreds of meters away. These are beautiful siege weapons. I love
Hundreds,
them.
hundreds of meters.
Oh yeah, they have so much range.
They are
You can you can
accurate and
you can hit these.
adjustable.
Oh, I love trebuchets. I got one on my desk right now. It's not full size, but it is a trebuchet.
No.
And the best
Well,
part about them is there's no limit to how big you can make it. For instance, while the English were taking out the Scots, um, there was one particular Scottish castle that was impregnable, basically, to the trebuchets that were being used. So, the English king, in all his wisdom and knowledge, ordered his engineers to build a bigger trebuchet, just to launch bigger stuff at the castle. And so, while his engineers were constructing this trebuchet, the Scots in the castle saw it and issued a surrender because of how scared they were of how big it was. And then, of course, the English king accepted the surrender and then evacuated the castle. And then, just because he wanted to see it actually function, he ordered the castle to be destroyed with the giant trebuchet anyway.
did it work?
Yes,
Of course it
quite
did.
well. Quite well. Because it's a trebuchet. They're beautiful.
I already put it at the top of S tier, obviously.
However, you can't really move them too well,
I would say that is the only disadvantage. You can't move them, and
and it takes
transporting
a
them
while to
also
reload,
really doesn't work. Um,
and the
most
projectiles are like really heavy.
it takes a while to load them,
But
but
other than that,
maximum damage.
maximum damage. S tier. I love the trebuchet.
Absolutely. As
Shall we read
always,
out our list?
as always, we will do a review of our list as a summary for the episode. This list was our medieval weapons tier list. Some of them we may have thought of as we were going along, um, such as the Asian ones or the crossbows. But maybe far enough down the line, there'll be opportunity to do repeat episodes. Who knows? Who knows? We can always revisit them at a much, much later date. But as of right now, as our medieval weapons tier list stands, in the D tier, we have the pickaxe and the dagger. In the C tier, we have the Morning Star, the mace, the flail, the battle axe. What is that? I
That's
forgot what
the
it
S
was
stock.
called. That's stock. That's what it's called. And the quarterstaff. In B tier, we have the maul. That's right,
Yes.
maul. The battering ram, the tar, the ballista, and the sword. In the A tier, we have the catapult, the
Halberd.
halberd.
Yeah, the halberd.
No, we have the halberd, and what's the other one?
That's the lucerne.
Lucerne. Okay, okay. Yeah. And finally, in the S tier, we have the World War II flamethrower, the spear, the longbow, and last but certainly not least, the trebuchet. And also, of course, it's not actually a World War II flamethrower, it is Greek fire, but it was funnier to say World War II flamethrower because we had that whole discussion about when Greek
You don't
fire
need
was
to
used,
explain the
and then,
joke.
but the joke is funnier when I explain it. Get it?
No, it's
Because when
not.
I explain it, I get to repeat it, and everyone has to sit here and contemplate whether or not it's actually funny.
You can stop now.
Get it? Because Nick is sick of
I
the
think maybe
joke,
we should end
even
the
though it's.
episode right here so that we can save people from this.
uh, as always, I'm your co-host Jeremiah.
And I am your co-host Nick, and this has been the S Tier Podcast,
Thank
Medieval
you
Weapons.
all for listening, and always, if you have a specific thing you would like us to do a tier list on, leave it in the comments section. We do read the comments, even if we may not always respond. But thank you always for listening. This has been the S Tier Podcast.